Empower STEM's an A-level course provider, and we provide A-level courses in biology, chemistry, physics, and maths for those students that want to enroll in medical, dental, veterinary, financial, and engineering programs at the chosen university in the UK. So today, I wanted to come in and I wanted to talk about year-end reflections, questions to ask over the break, because this is the moment that most families miss, is over the Christmas holidays. Parents tend to focus on the grades that their teen got on the report card, and they're more interested in what grade did they get, what went wrong, what needs to improve. A more powerful question to ask is, what did this year actually teach us? Because at the end of the day, parents, it isn't about analyzing grades. What it is, it's about building clarity before the next term begins. The core problem is this, is that reflection is replaced with reaction. Because when the term comes to an end, parents tend to see either one of two things happening with their teens. Either they move straight into revision plans. Well, I've got to lock myself in my room, revise and study all day and all night for the entire 2 weeks that I'm on holidays. Or they move into a complete shutdown. Well, I've managed to get through the term. Don't I deserve some time off, mum, dad? Time to relax, regenerate, recuperate, right? And the problem is that neither one of these actions build insight. Because what teens do is they sometimes get a little bit broody and they tend to dwell on mistakes. Well, it was that one test. I just didn't get that topic the way that the teacher taught it. It was just that one test that brought my grade down. Or they tend to avoid talking about school. No, mom, dad, no, I don't want to talk about school. Can we go talk about something else? I mean, can't you tell that I'm stressed? Or the over-focus on one disappointing result. Oh, got a bad grade in that test. And the reason was I didn't study hard enough for it. I had to do chemistry, biology, and maths in the same week. And the issue is this, is that without structured reflection, the same pattern repeats. There's a saying that history repeats itself, but we can learn from history. But what you need to do is you need to step back and reflect on what you've done for the previous term. So the question becomes this then, parents, is why does reflection or feedback, why does it build confidence and not just awareness? Well, it's this. Confidence doesn't come from reassurance. It comes from evidence. Parents, I know you will like to tell your son, your daughter, it's going to be okay. It's going to work out in the end. It's only one bad test result. Look, it's only a term grade. It's not the real exam at the end of the 2 years, is it? But that kind of reassurance, parents, it doesn't build confidence in your teen. It just doesn't. Confidence comes from reflection. Because when your teen learns how to reflect on the previous work, it highlights growth. They can see, for example, if they graph the exam results, the test results in school, say A-level chemistry, for example, maybe it's like the stock market. Some topics went good, some topics didn't go so well, but there's an overall trend in the upward direction. So they can highlight the growth and they can see, yes, I am improving. Or on the lab reports at the front of the manual, you'll see the teacher, they use the red, amber, green. Green means you got everything. Red means you didn't get this one point. And they can see less reds and more greens as the year progresses. It clarifies patterns, good patterns and bad patterns. For example, a good pattern may be they notice that if they're well prepared for a test, meaning they've studied a few days ahead of the test at school, then they've had a chance to talk to the teacher and get any questions resolved that they may have about the topic. They've got a good night's rest. Maybe they've gone through several past papers. Then the pattern is that they do better on the test. As compared to when they're not organized or something happens with their system and it just doesn't, they've got too many things going on and they're waiting until the last minute and then they're revising late into the night. They're pulling the proverbial all-nighter. Test doesn't go so well. It exposes what actually works. No, everybody's different. There isn't just one stereotypical type of learner, but it exposes what works for your teen. Most teens do well with a study timetable or a revision plan for the week. Most do well with predefined blocks of time, 60 minutes and 90 minutes to be studying, for example, A-level chemistry or A-level biology interlaced throughout the week. And because they have time to slow down and reflect on it, they can actually see the patterns and what actually works for them. But it also reduces vague anxiety because stress comes from anxiety and anxiety comes from not knowing. And so rather than sitting there looking at the half-term report card thinking, oh, got a D in A-level chemistry. Oh no. They can reflect on what worked or what didn't work, and they can come up with a plan to strengthen what didn't work and to move the needle, as Brenda Bouchard would say, spike the needle in the upward direction. Because when teens see their own progress clearly, their belief in themselves is strengthened. And this is an important bit, parents. Your teen needs to believe that they can actually do A-level maths and A-level science. And belief, we talked about this one in the previous live stream, beliefs come from behaviors and evidence. You need to be able to see the evidence that you are actually improving. And then if you see the evidence, you believe that you're improving, and then you begin to spiral upwards. So what's the 4 categories of year-end reflections that your teen can do? First one is what improved. They can ask themselves what improved, and you can have this conversation with them, parents. You can. And be careful again with the question stems, because we've been through this one before. If you go in with a why question stem, why didn't you do well in A-level chemistry, A-level biology? Why did you not get the top grade? Then that activates a belief system. And activating a belief system means that they then go be on the defensive and they begin to shut down. So ask questions like, so where did you gain the marks this year? On your exams, where do you think you gained the marks? What topics feel easier for you now? Christmas time than they did when you first started. Because you know how topics in A-level maths and science, they begin to cascade into each other, don't they? Like one topic leads into the next, leads into the next. What skills improved? See, like, notice these are all behavior STEM questions because I'm asking the what questions, and it's not linked directly into their identity. And so they can look at it with a critical eye and say, yes, this skill improved. These topics were easier. This is where I gained the marks. But parents, growth is invisible unless it's named. The growth is invisible unless it's named. You have to identify the growth and have a conversation with your teen and say, look, right there. Did you notice how you've improved in this area here? Oh, I didn't see that. Yes, you did. And now you've made the growth visible. Second question is, what caused the most stress? A-level science and A-level maths, they're hard. They're hard topics. The hard A-levels. And some topics come easier to some students than other ones do. So don't ask them, why are you stressed? Again, do you notice immediately the why stem? Why are you stressed? They've then got to go on the defensive because now they have a belief behind that. But a better way of asking the question would be, so what felt hardest this term? Notice the what. What felt hardest this term for you? Well, Mum, Dad, to be honest with you, in A-level maths, we were doing differentiation, and I've just got to admit that was hard to get through. It's not linked to their identity, is it? It's a behavior. It isn't a belief. Now, what this does is that this, asking these what type of questions, these behavior type of questions, it makes them reflect on their behavior. And so all of a sudden, it seems to percolate up to the top then on workload issues. Are they overworked? Revision method issues. Do they have a well-defined study plan for the week? Do they have a well-defined set of study skills, revision strategies, revision plan? Or is it confidence issues, which is a big thing with students taking A-levels, parents? Confidence issues are something which can lower the grade by letter grades. But one thing we know is this, is that stress is usually structural. You can normally tie it back to some kind of issue that they're having with the system, the structure of studying and revising. The third category then is, well, what worked? And this allows you to identify, again, because we're talking about behaviors, this allows you to identify study habits that produce results. Son, daughter, did you notice that because you had your week planned out and you was actually working 3 days ahead of the test date at school, then all of a sudden you weren't stressed out. You got all the prep work done for that test. When you took the test, you were good to go. You got a good grade at it. Identify for them revision cycles that improved marks. Now, again, we're getting really granular here, parents, because what we're doing is we're identifying the behaviors that improve the marks. And so there may be certain things they do when they revise that has a direct effect on the mark on the test. Now, at Empowered STEM, we teach the 6 pillars of neuroscience as applied to learning. And again, we can tell when a student onboards a new way of revising, the grade bumps up. There's a direct correlation there. It helps them identify what routines felt sustainable. A-level maths and A-level science, parents, they're 2-year courses. And so your teen cannot have a study schedule and a revision plan. That means all they're doing is studying and revising because they'll get burnt out, normally around February. Okay? But one thing we know is this, and this one comes from Tony Robbins, is this one here. Success leaves clues. If your teen slows down enough to reflect on what they've done, they'll see patterns that they can duplicate, they can amplify. They'll increase their success level in the course. And the fourth category then is what needs adjusting. Not, well, what went wrong? Again, What kind of a question is that to ask your teen? What went wrong in A-level chemistry this term, daughter? I don't know. I mean, I tried my best. It just didn't work out. But a better question, a more powerful question to ask is, what needs refining next term? When you go back to school after the break, what needs to be refined? And get granular with them. Is it the study plan, study skills, revision plan, revision strategies? What is it? But what you're doing, parents, is this, is that you're shifting from judgment to optimization. We're taking the judgment out because you don't judge data, you just review it. Now, at Empowered STEM, we use the STEM Path method, which is a 4-step journey that we put students through in all of our courses. And let's look at reflection on how they did the previous term. Let's look at this through the STEM Path lens, and let's turn reflection into direction. So they have a map at the end of it. The very first step then in our pathway is precision diagnosis. And precision diagnosis means that you just analyze the data. So you look at the year-end data, and you're looking at exam results. So it could be mock results, test results at school, homework, labs, anything that has a grade on it. And you're looking for recurring errors. For example, when it comes to tests at school, are they consistently losing marks because they don't have the correct number of significant figures? They don't understand significant figures, or they keep on losing marks because they're not doing the mechanisms correctly in organic chemistry, or maybe they're not laying out the answer to the questions in biology in the way that the examiner wants and has all the key command words and buzzwords in biology that you need. Are there any feedback patterns? And so by this one, what I mean is this, is when they get the test back, are they slowing down to read what the teacher wrote on the test in a non-judgmental way? Not grubbing for points. Well, maybe I can get half a point here, maybe I can get a point there. They're just onboarding it and saying, yes, this is a feedback that I got on this test here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to implement the feedback, and I'll improve on the next test. Or are they just taking the paper and putting it into the filing cabinet, which is the back of their textbook? Because if they slow down and analyze the data which they have, what they'll notice is that they'll get clarity, and clarity reduces overwhelm. The second step in the pathway is conceptual clarity. And it's this: which topics still feel shaky? At the end of the term, you've had time to learn, study, revise all the topics that the teacher covered. Which ones are you still a little bit uncertain about? Now, it may be electrochemistry, it may be thermodynamics, it may be gene expression, it may be integration, I don't know. But what your teen needs to do is, again, look at it with a critical lens, 30,000-foot view, step back, and ask themselves, what topics can I strengthen over the half-term break? Because if I strengthen the foundations in these topics early, it's going to prevent stress later. It's kind of like you want to fix the crack in the dam now before the entire dam collapses, normally just a few weeks before the end of the year exams, when everything just collapses like a house of cards. Strategic revision. Which habits need adjusting? Now, this is a big one. Like I said, parents, at Empowered STEM, we use the 6 pillars of neuroscience. And so we teach the teens about interleaving, chunking down, active learning, everything. But they need to look at their revision cycle and ask, do I have a plan for the week? Do I have definite start times and end times for my block of revision for A-level chemistry, A-level biology, or A-level maths? Do I have a revision cycle? Now, we teach them this. Do we have a revision cycle that they can follow? Normally, it's a 30-day cycle that they just loop around, concept, do some questions to make sure they understand it, do some questions from past papers under exam conditions, reflect, mark it, update the notes, and they go around and around. How often are they trying past papers? Now, this, again, we've got to be careful here, parents, because what this one is this. We don't teach memorizing mark schemes. But what we teach is doing past papers under exam conditions. How many papers is your son, your daughter doing each week? How about feedback loops? Are they pausing at the end of every revision block of time and reflecting on what they've done, what they learned? Or are they just trying to get through as many past paper questions as they can and have the mark scheme open and be, well, yes, a kind of, possibly, yeah, I would have written that one down. Yes, I almost got that. And then move on hurriedly to the next one. And all you see is this flurry of papers. Because if they have structure when it comes to revision, what they find is this, is a structure beats motivation. Because motivation comes and goes, but habits never die. And so if your teen has structure when it comes to revision, their motivation is going to be high because they'll keep on getting better and better and stronger at it. And revising becomes a habit. The fourth one is a medical mindset. Now, medical mindset to us, this means that your teen has resilience. They have the growth mindset, to quote Carol Dweck. And what they need to do is that they need to reflect on the year and not see it as the glass is half empty, the glass is half full. Oh, I can't do that. Fixed mindset. Or, well, I've just got this growth mindset. I'll do better next term. And there's no direction at the end of it. What they need to do is they need to reframe the year. They need to understand that this isn't a verdict. The grade that your son, your daughter gets at the end of the at the end of the calendar year, December, it isn't a verdict. It's preparation for what's coming up next. But reflection shifts their identity. It shifts their identity from thinking, oh, I'm behind. My friends are doing so much better than me. I'm not smart enough to get A-level maths and A-level science. It shifts the reflection from that to, I'm improving. Every day, every test, every homework set, every lab report, I'm scaling the ladder to the next grade. So parents, let's have a conversation about how you can have a conversation with your teen about these points. Number one, keep the tone neutral. I always say this, you don't want to be the referee in the game handing out the red card. What you want to be is the coach on the sideline, encouraging them to do their best. So don't go in there with the idea that it's going to be an interrogation. Why didn't you do this? What happened here? Now what are you going to do? There's no fixing. You're not walking around with a clipboard going, well, you know what we've got to do is this. And then, yes, we've got to increase the study hours there, and you've got to cut down the amount of television that you watch. No, just be curious. Open up the dialogue with your teen and ask open, calm questions, such as, what are you proud of this year? Like, what's your top achievement? Because to them, parents, maybe pulling the grade in A-level chemistry up from a D to a C in one term, they're really happy about that. What felt unnecessarily stressful? Was it the workload, the inability to balance 3 A levels? Was it they didn't understand a certain A level, like maths, for example? And what could make next term calmer for you? Normally, this one is, well, if I was better organized and had a better set of study skills, vision strategies, then yeah, and I was working ahead, I wouldn't be so stressed out. Keep it short. Teens are teens, but reflection works best if it's 20 minutes, not a 2-hour sit-down conversation with mum and dad. Focus on direction and not detail, because the goal is clarity. It's not a full plan. Plans come later. Right now, all you're trying to do is get clarity with your teen. They can reflect. Now, parents, is there a real student story behind this one? Well, of course there is. We have hundreds of students come through the courses at Empower STEM. And the one that comes to mind is Sophia. Now, I've talked about Sophia before. Sophia, when she came to us, I think it would be fair to say that she was stressed out. She had been predicted an A in A-level chemistry by her teacher, and she was sitting at a D in the mark book, and she was stressed. The definition of stressed. And the reason is that she was overwhelmed. And so when I was talking to her, it's, well, you know, I've got A-level chemistry, A-level biology, A-level maths. I'm doing I've got to do these extracurricular activities. I've got to do my medical school applications. Got an interview and everything else. And I'm just a little bit overwhelmed, a little bit stressed out. There isn't enough time in the day. And then when I sit down, I think I understand A-level chemistry. And then when I'm doing the papers at home, I understand it. And then when I take the test at school, it's just like all the information just leaves my mind. And I'm sitting there looking at the paper with a blank mind. Now, parents, you may connect with the story. So what I did is I had a conversation with her, and I hoped to see patterns in what she was doing. For example, being up all night the night before the test is one way of lowering your grade on the test the next day because you make more silly errors. So we talked about having a better study plan for the week. We talked about better study skills. For example, do you really need to copy the notes over and make them absolutely perfect? Do you really need to watch all those YouTube videos? If you don't understand the question on the paper, why are you memorizing the answers on the mark scheme? And we came up with a new plan, a new identity for her, a new set of behaviors, a new set of beliefs. And when we did this, when she made the adjustments, we noticed one thing straight away, and that is that the confidence began to increase because the evidence in the mark book at school was the grade was increasing. And because the grade was increasing, she started to believe that she could do A-level chemistry and she get more confident. And the motivation just kept on going and going. Sophia, when she took the final exam in A-level chemistry, she earned an A star. And she got into King's University, which was a top choice school. And she's studying to be a dentist. So parents, let me give you some reassurance here. Year-end reflections. It's not about reliving mistakes with your teen. It's about slowing everything down, stepping back 30,000 feet, seeing the forest, and spotting growth patterns, clarifying weaknesses, reducing uncertainty. Because studies show that teens who reflect properly over the break, they start the new term calmer and more focused than those teens that skip reflection, carry on like they've always carried on, and they end up repeating the same stress cycle the next term as they did the previous one. Now, if you're watching this live stream on Facebook and you connect with what I'm saying, on Facebook, what you need to do is you need to like the business page. And if you like the business page, you will be notified of upcoming live streams. Or if you're watching this live stream on the YouTube channel, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Now, the benefit of that is that not only will you be notified of upcoming live streams, but you'll also be able to watch all the other live streams that we've done. And we do live streams every week where we give parents tips, strategies, and techniques on how they can help their teen earn an A or an A star in A-level maths and A-level science. And if you'd like to learn more about what we do in our courses, really easy to do. There's a link in the description under the video on Facebook or the video on YouTube. It's really easy. You click the link in the description, you fill out a form, and a member of my team will reach out to you and have a non-sales, non-committal conversation where you can ask all the questions you want about our courses and how we help teens get the top marks in A-level maths and A-level science. And in the conversation, you can tell us where your teen is currently working at in the grade, the working grade, in the mark book, their predicted grade, their aspirational grade, what university they want to attend to, what they want to be on the outside, doctor, dentist, veterinarian. And we'll also explain to you how our course works and how we can help your teen achieve these goals. So at the end, parents, of the conversation, what you'll have is this, is you'll have all the information that you need to make a well-informed decision on whether you think that our course will be a benefit to your teen. And if we think that our course will actually benefit your teen, well, you can then make the next decision and decide whether you want to invest in one of our courses. Everybody take care, and I'll see you on the next one.